till there's a bunch of them, so.
Okay, call to order a regular meeting of the Tracy City Council at 6:30 PM, Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Does anybody want to sing happy birthday?
I think we should sing happy birthday.
No, we can just move the meeting.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Jerry. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. 42.
We didn't. You just have to know, all of us didn't sing, so there's no payback on it.
Yeah. We have your dates.
Okay, so can I get a motion? Well, did everybody have a chance to go over the minutes?
I'd move approval.
First and second, any discussion or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes from May 13th are approved. We have one change on the agenda.
Yes, 12A, Resolution 2019-35 to approve a payment for Reiner Contracting for work on the stabilization funds.
Okay. And like you said, we'll probably be jumping around a little bit. And no other changes? Can I
Move
get
approval as amended.
Second.
first and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Public comment. Anybody from the public have any comments on anything that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll bounce into department head reports, and then at 6:45 we'll go to the public hearing. So Chief, you want to go, or Val, either one?
Attached you had calls for service and basic report. Public nuisance ordinances were completed early after June 1st. There's roughly, I don't remember what the exact number was, between 80 and 90 public nuisance ordinance warnings that were handed out, and a couple were mailed that were people that don't reside in town, that have properties here in town. Give you a hiring process update. We had 2 very good candidates show up and test and interview, and that was Friday. And Friday afternoon, the police commission decided that they chose a candidate, and so we called and gave him a tentative job offer, told him that he was our selection for a candidate, and today he has decided that he's not going to take that position due to issues with a fiance. So the second position or party that interviewed with us is already on a hiring list and being backgrounded by another department, and so we're kind of waiting to see if that department takes him on before we try to spend money on the continuing portion of this by doing psychologicals and the physical tests and stuff that costs us money. We're going to wait to see where he's at in this other process of a background. So right now we're kind of in a stall on that second candidate and basically starting over again. Bike rodeo was rained out last time. It's rescheduled for tomorrow. They're scheduling rain, so anybody planning to go to the bike rodeo tomorrow, about noon, but they said they're gonna make a decision whether or not of the weather before noon, so, watch the PD's Facebook page, and I mean, you might even do a nixle to let people know that if the bike rodeo is canceled due to weather. Handed out books that the businesses here in town purchased for first and third graders the other day. That went very well at both schools. It's always a good program, and I appreciate the businesses that contribute to it. It's just good PR to go out and give these first and third graders something while you're in uniform. So, and it doesn't cost the PD anything. The businesses here in town pay for the books. So basically all it is my time with the first and third graders. I always try to do it closer to the end of the year so that they have something over the summer they can goof with. The books that are good and have stories about making positive choices and some word games and different projects in them they can do. So, Truth About Drugs graduation went well the other day. And the only other thing I have to update you on is the squad, and the 2019 squad is in production. And I was joking with him, well, good, it'll be done tomorrow, and he says, yeah, next week. So we should have it next week. So, any questions?
You haven't got a closeout date on the opening for your new?
No, I left the posting open.
Yep.
And so the first review of applications would be May 15th. And so I think what I'll do is I'll contact Post and say to keep that open with the next review of applications being June 10th or something. So, just to throw a date out.
Getting tough.
So, and we'll see where our second choice is too. I mean, you know, he's in the running for another position, and if, you know, somebody beats him out for that position right now, but he's in the background process, so we'll see. So.
Perhaps the rodeo should be a kayak rodeo.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. So my report has a lot in it this month. I just want to touch on a couple of things. Summer reading program starts next week. Summer reading challenge and also story time will be on Tuesday mornings at 10:30. And then just an update on the basement. Work has begun, and the old heating system has been removed now completely, and including the old noisy fans from upstairs. So we're not sad to see those go. But otherwise, I think work is going to be starting on the AC now. So, any questions?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The Tracy Liquor Store, I attended the liquor convention the 28th and 9th of April. The seminars were very helpful, and the connection made with other liquor stores is always a huge benefit. May 8th, we had a Wine 101 class at the Caboose. We had like 30 people, and their staff also attended. The Caboose did a wonderful job with the food, and everybody was pleased with the presenter as well. All had a great time, and I still have people coming in the store today saying how much they enjoyed that, and make sure we let them know when the next one is. We went and looked at fixtures this month. We're so excited about our move. We're talking to other stores and reading up on what to do and to be aware of OSHA. And our April sales in 18 were, their April sales in 18 were $41,700. In 2019, our April sales are $50,400. And our whole entire staff went to a liquor training event in Wyndham and in Westbrook. And anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
When were we planning on finishing the move over there?
Well, tentatively, we're looking for boxcar days.
Okay.
Some of the weather events and stuff we're not quite close enough to decide on whether we're gonna hit that target or not.
That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to refresh. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
EDA?
I can get that done quick. The EDA is at a busy couple months, April and May. One of the biggest projects that I've been working on, again, would be the inadequacy of housing here in Tracy. One of the bigger projects out there would be Broad Acres, which is starting to take shape. We've got one of the lots sold. Actually, we're going to have a closing in the next week and a half on one of the lots out there, so we'll be putting $25,000 back into the EDA or the reserve. You know, that's just one of them that sold, where the goal of the EDA is to, and the board is to have 2 of those built out there by the end of the year, which would open up a couple houses here in town. Going along with that housing initiative, the EDA has taken an active part in seeking out potential homeowners. I'm not a realtor, but the fact is, if I can help the developers with finding people that are wanting to move into new facilities, it helps them out a little bit. Currently working on, to go along with that again, currently working on a project to offer a first-time homeowners loan out of the from the EDA for qualified people on a low interest rate if they can't come up with all of their down payment. Been taking an active part on trying to get the buildings downtown and on Highway 14 filled, keeping in mind that you need to put the right person or the right company into the right building. You know, just for instance, maybe a place that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, you'd want to put somebody in there that doesn't need a lot of foot traffic. Along with that, done a lot of small tenant projects at Orchard Lanes, all the way from fixing garbage disposals to garage door issues. The EDA has taken a big step forward in getting the current loans that were delinquent up to speed with personal phone calls, emails, and registered letters. Currently working on a $5,000 business program application, ready to give out one for sure this summer, but possibly 2 others, and for sure a couple people applying for it. And along with the meetings every 2 weeks with the EDA board, meeting with Chris 3 times a week for sure, getting direction and update there. A lot of real estate property transactions and a lot of things you can't really talk about since they don't have anything concrete with them yet. One thing last thing I'll bring up here is the current amount in the CDBG account is $77,000, and we've got $54,000 of that is tied in with the Small Cities grant that we applied for, that we're past the second round. So right now there's $23,000 in there that we'd be able to use for other loans or possibly the first-time homeowner loans. We might be able to get the money out of there to use that. So any questions, you more than welcome to give me a call.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much. Can you do it in 2.5 minutes, Shane?
Depending on how many questions you have. I can hit the highlights here. Most of our efforts in the last week have been at the pool, getting that going. Been fighting some iron issues out there. We're kind of aiming it towards their filter media. We're looking at getting some different media to put in that, but in the meantime we're just going to fight through it, make sure it opens on time. We don't really see too many issues with that. They have their training Saturday the 1st, and I think it's going to open next Thursday potentially, if it ever quits raining. So 9030 sold. I have that in my report. Went for $6,056. That was picked up on the day of the city cleanup, and I'll hit the cleanup day information here in a while. I think it's another agenda item, but do you have any questions? Just trying to keep the grass down, but good luck.
I'll add something to yours. They repaired a part for the pool that was like $4,800 by just digging into it and figuring it out, and they saved the city. I mean, it's those little things that do a lot. And
Yeah.
the easy button is to just order the part. And I think we should commend the staff out there for that.
That's
Paul and Shane.
that's a good chunk of money.
Digging into it.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Do we know for the street project this year, when they're gonna decide what they're doing? I mean, they're talking about only doing half,
They're
right?
talking, the earliest they would start is late July. And usually they start on the lower side of it, so that would be towards the highway.
Okay.
That area and around Central Park.
Okay, I just had people ask, and I said I'd just,
It'd be nice to know what's going on for Labor Day too, but when we get to the pre-construction meeting, we'll know more. And
Okay.
I'll pass that information along.
So we can bounce back to you after the public hearing at this time. We need to open the public hearing for variance permit. Do we have anyone that wants to speak at that? Hearing none, then we can close it.
What is the variance request for? I can hardly read this. What's not? Garage setback, is that what it is?
Well, what it actually is the width of the lot, and by moving the structure there, adding a garage to it, the overhang of the garage will actually impede, go too close to the boundary.
Right, yeah, that's what I assume, but when you do we got to explain what we're doing the public hearing for other than a variance.
Yeah.
We need to, if the eaves encroaching on a property line, and we've historically have waived that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a side yard setback.
Okay.
Yep, I think the important thing to look at is they want to add a garage to it.
Yep.
Garages fight blight.
Yep. No, that's,
So the eve is actually, it crossing the property line, or
No.
is
no, it's just too close.
No, but
It's just-
it encroaches the setback requirement.
it? Okay, by how far?
Standard setback. I think, was it 2.5 feet or 2 feet? 2 feet. Yeah, it's minimal.
2.5 feet into the 8-foot.
Right.
Correct, yep. And again, it just does not meet the standard, so it had to
Yep.
be reviewed by the planning commission. Planning commission's recommendation to the council was to approve it, and now it's up to the council.
Okay. We have no public comment on that, so
I'll make the motion that we approve the variance permit for Tam Jones.
Second.
first and second, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed? Then motion carries to approve variance permit for Tam Shones. All right, so we got about 12 more minutes here. So I wanted to ask Shane about the Front Street.
Okay.
What do we have going on there, working on the repairs?
We're out with the county a week and a half ago or so. There's a county tile that runs underneath that road, and it's surcharging when it rains. The county's actually looking into a design. They're gonna shoot some grades on the county ditch board side of it. See if there's some way we can relieve the water, and they could assist us in increasing the size of our current ditch that runs along Front Street. And, kind of divert some of that water into there so it's not surcharging that old tile anymore. And then, no matter what, the tile would need to be replaced before we ever decide to put new asphalt there. Ideally, we're gonna try to get it out of the road, into the boulevard. Obviously, they gotta go through a bunch of hoops on their end to make things happen as far as the county ditch board goes, the ditch authority, but
So that tile runs east-west down the center where that heave is?
so where the heave is, towards the bus garage end of Front Street,
Yep,
that's about right where the tile is.
okay,
And then by the time you get over to Maine, over by
yep,
Ronnie Dowles and Keith Peterson's place, it's actually right on the curb. Because that tile doesn't run exactly straight with the road, it kind of angles. And then once it gets past Lanús, it shoots to the southeast through Steve Larson's field. And then it curls back into the county ditch on the east side of Center Street. So it kinda
Meanders.
meanders through. But, we're kinda waiting to hear back from them. There is a potential, we could see some, money from FEMA for frost heaves, but it's kinda stupid to throw money at it if it's gonna happen again. And the way it's raining, I'm sure it's surcharged now. So right now, we're just trying to make the best of it with, what we have. Hopefully we can get some gravel now. They lifted the road postings on Friday. At least in Lyon County. I think they're still on in Murray County, but, we can get some gravel and rock back in here. We can maybe firm it up a little more, but just gonna try to make the best of what we have now until we hear back from the county exactly. It sounded like a couple weeks when we talked to them before they'd have any answers for us, so we're just kinda waiting on that.
When it comes to a monetary standpoint on it, we have to work with the county because they have the levy authority to, that tile is fed from multiple sources outside of our levy authority, and they do have funds that for tile repair. So they have to decide if it's gonna be a repair or replacement, and it's all in the wording and the amount that it happens. So to get some of that financial assistance for that repair, we wanna wait for the county to come up with their decision, and then we also want to record everything because our standpoint with FEMA right now for the disaster that's currently under review for declaration, we might be able to get some FEMA dollars for that same thing. So I realize that the residents that live along there would like to see the road repaired, but I think from a taxing standpoint, they would also want us to do our due diligence to try and recoup any funds that we can ahead of time, and that involves sometimes just standing still for a little bit.
Yeah, and it's good that they hear this so they can kind of understand what's going on, because it, like you said, it does not make sense to throw money at it if it's just gonna happen again.
They can get the flow down that ditch,
Gotta get our ditch to run downhill
Yep.
instead of uphill though.
yeah, that would help a lot of other problems along with that, so.
Well, the problem we had like last spring for sure, that ditch always filled up, and then the water would rise and it'd take all the corn stalks and everything from the field and it'll dump them in the catch basins and the road floods. That don't help matters with the county tile either, because that county tile actually has an intake also by the Alliance Church, so when that fills up, then it surcharges the tile even more,
Yep.
and it's a snowball effect, so.
Okay?
It's definitely a poor design, but there is, in the past, we have shot grade on it, and it can run the right way. It's just a matter of the right route and, the cost obviously falls into it.
How old is all that tiling and stuff?
Early 1900s.
Say, does it pick
That's why I
up
started
more,
chuckling.
does it pick up
Okay.
more water in Larson's too?
Larson.
Behind where it
I
goes
don't think
behind
there's an
Steve?
intake over there.
Is there an
Trying to
intake
think
back
where-
in there at all? Behind Steve Larson's property back there?
Yeah, it
Is there an
does.
intake back there too?
Yeah.
What? With all that standing water, yeah,
Good lord.
And
whatever they
actually-
could divert earlier into their ditch would help all of that, so.
Yeah. And that's where, if you dump it before it gets down Front Street, then it has room to take the rest of Front Street. Because I know by Brian Lanew's there, between Brian and Steve, between those two lots, there's always a lake there after it rains, and it takes quite a bit of time to get rid of it. But we did a repair on Main. You can see a gravel patch now on Main in front. We had thought our sanitary sewer collapsed. We started digging there, well, here it was the county tile that collapsed. We dug through there, and that county tile is probably a third or better full of debris. So you got a 12-inch pipe, and it's only running at just over half its capacity, because it's just over-aged, and everything that comes in it over through the intakes, and how many times it's collapsed.
I understand it's probably a little premature, but if all the planets and stars align, what kind of a time frame would we be looking at here? Just for those people out there can we give them any kind of idea?
On a plowing standpoint, we'd at least want to dig the muck out and have gravel back in it before fall. Even though we don't even want to plow it with gravel in it, because it turns into a mess in the spring. Ideally, hopefully we can get something figured out during the summer here and get things going on it, but
There is a very small chance that it could get overlaid before fall, but it is a small chance, admittedly, just because of, you know, there's so many other things involved in it as far as the county and, you know, the.
That was all gravel back in the mid to late 70s. And then when they finally paved it, that's when that stuff, they should have checked that stuff before they paved over it, but.
the storm sewer's got
Yep.
some leaks that's creating dips in the road too. The pipe's in good shape, but they never put filter cloth or anything around the joints, so it can be, you know, redone and, you know, without taking the pipe out, but it would need to be addressed before we put a new road over top of it.
Very good. I just, you know, for the folks, they have no idea, so
Yeah.
I want to give them kind of a clue about, you know, as much as we can anyway. Without, you know, obviously we can't make any promises on anything, but a little bit of information can help. Okay, 4 more minutes. Was there anything else you wanted to hit, or?
Yeah, cleanup
No.
day if you want.
Sure.
So cleanup day, we have, I just got the rest of the numbers today. We got mattresses were $210 for disposal. And this is what we paid out for disposal on our side. Tires were $200.75. Appliance and electronics were $1,860. And then general garbage for the 3 dumpsters, total was $1,328.63. It should be a total of $35.99.38 in expenses, and we brought in revenue of $1,743. So the total expense for cleanup day was $1,856.38. And that's not counting any time, but that's what our costs were there.
Is that similar to last year at all, do you know, or?
I don't remember.
A little less, but it's in the ballpark,
I thought last year was in 2000.
yeah. But it's, no, that's super.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank those that volunteered and came out and helped out, and the folks that took advantage of it. So,
Can they knock mine out in a minute?
sure. You got 3.
Perfect, I'll take it. So my report's in your packet. I guess just a bunch of meetings here and there. There's been a couple that I guess just stand out there. Shane and I met with facets of the Department of Health for wellhead protection meeting. That's something that we're engaging in. It's a required activity, and it's actually something that'll come up here later on. Multiple meetings, downtown EDA, department head meeting, a second meeting with the wellhead. FEMA, we had our PDA applicant brief. That's the beginning stages of it being declared as a disaster. They're gathering the facts and figures, so our second disaster in 2 years. One more, we get some set of steak knives or something. We started working on Planet software. It's a forecasting software for our capital improvement stuff. Shane and I actually had a meeting with the developer of it and worked through him. Guy from Minnesota, really good. That's going to help us a lot moving forward with, you know, our aging equipment. We have a lot of aging equipment in the city, and we need to come up with a plan for replacement before we're forced into replacement. Some of the key pieces of equipment for snow removal, there are no other options than to keep it going, and we better come up with a plan for replacement of it. So, and that's something that Shane's been working diligently on. Finance, we had our bonds sold for the Phase 3A project, so that's great. That money's going to be available here shortly, or it is available now, and USDA is going to start releasing some of those funds so we can pay some of the engineering bills and stuff, so you see some of that stuff come forward soon. Utilities, we have 3 left to convert from the old style meter. One, we're just working on a scheduling conflict, and actually since this was typed, we've had a second that has called us to initiate scheduling. Had a couple of questions and wanted to find out about a few things. And we have one that just is an absolute holdout and has told us that they are not going to participate in this at all. So I would anticipate that they may have a change of heart before then. If they don't, then that'll be one that will end up at 120 days just disconnecting the water. And obviously before we do that, I'll reach out to our city attorney and have him look at it one more time, draft the appropriate notice and have that happen. Flood again, multiple calls. I actually spent a large portion of the day with FEMA now. We're just starting to get to the point where all of our FEMA stuff from last year is starting to enter back into the state, which the state is the final approving authority before it gets paid out to us. So we should see some money coming in, but there have been a few mistakes. We're actually on our 3rd program delivery manager, so that's always fun to train in the new one. So we're awaiting some final approval. I do anticipate that we met the threshold for this upcoming disaster just by some of the numbers that I've seen come back from HESM and Lyon County. So I think that we'll be seeing some relief from FEMA on this, from the storm and from some of the boils that we have in the road and stuff like that, and our response to that. Obviously not as critical as it was last year, dollar amount, but we still, I reported $58,000 in damages without the road damages to them. So Shane and Dale both gathered numbers for me on that. Upcoming items, we got land use training that Jeff and I are going to attend. We have our bid opening for the airport apron project coming up, and multiple facets from groups, different committees and stuff are going to meet and talk about some land development and where the direction is for whether we want an industrial park or things like that, so that we can communicate with landowners to see if there's something that we can purchase and do, if there's things that, upcoming stuff like that, to try and have a plan of not just today but tomorrow, maybe 10-15 years down the road even. So that's about it. If you have any questions.
I do, but I'm gonna come back to you. It's after 7, so we'll now open the variance permit, public hearing for Marlene Meyer. But the variance, is anybody here want to address that? What is the variance in this case?
So Marlene Meyer had a chunk of property that was a lot that abutted to her own home. That was a home with a detached garage. She has, earlier this year, she tore down the home. It was at
Craig Avenue.
Craig Avenue and Otis Court, right on the corner there. The way the city statute reads, our city code, is that if there's no house on the land, the garage could not be allowed without a variance. The planning commission reviewed it, and again, she tore down the house because it was in poor shape. She wants to leave the garage structure up because she still uses it, and it's just one of those kind of tricky things where it doesn't meet our current city code without a variance. So it had to go through this process to allow her to leave the garage that is already existing. So that's what the variance request was. It went through the planning commission. That was heavily debated at the planning commission, but it did come with 100% approval, unanimous, to be brought back to the council for review.
So, question I have is if she ever sells the house that she's in today, does that variance go with the garage, or is that all of a sudden up in the air again?
It stays with the parcel, but if she was to build on that property, or if anyone else was to build on there, that's where it would have to be re-reviewed, moving forward. So if somebody wanted to build, even if they wanted to build the house is gone now.
Right.
So if they wanted to build that exact footprint house, they would still have to re-review and come in for a variance request, because there's possibilities that it wouldn't meet for other reasons.
Okay.
So, realistically, on a lot that size, to build on that lot is probably gonna require a variance request anyway, because the shape and footprint that people build in nowadays is much different than in the past. So it's much more expensive to build a house that has this footprint than say a patio home that would have a larger footprint and go closer to the property edges.
Removing that house, I think she should be applauded for that. That was,
Yeah,
it
needed
was
to
time
go.
for it. The garage, it doesn't look bad sitting there.
And garages fight blight.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a new mantra.
Well, and it makes sense that, you know, the house, like you said, needed to be removed, so I don't see a problem with the garage being there. Anyone else?
Motion to approve it, or,
Gotta close the public hearing
oh,
first.
sorry.
Yeah, so since there's no comment from the public, we'll close the public hearing.
Then I'll make a motion to
Your
approve the
motions.
variance permit.
Okay. First and second, any other questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries to approve variance permit for Marlene Meyer. Okay, we got a few more minutes. So,
On that, do we have to do resolutions for these approvals too, or not?
For the variance request?
Yeah.
No.
do we know when we're gonna break ground on 3A?
On 3A? Well, that's up to the winning bidder right now.
Okay.
The tentative date is sometime middle to end of July.
All right. Yeah, just looking for ballpark.
Yeah, it's tough, and I will say this, we had a construction meeting today, and Reinert, who is working on our phase 2, the ponds, said, you know, every construction company is behind right now from weather. They were all hoping to get in earlier this year, and, you know, we had snow a little bit later, and the ground is so saturated that, you know, 1 inch snowfall is catastrophic, or I'm sorry, 1 inch rainfall is catastrophic to them right now, so.
Yeah, everybody's being affected by this rain thing.
Yep.
He said this is the wettest year in, I don't know, like 100 years or something since. Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else have any questions for Chris? All right, well, thank you. So did we cover all the department head reports? Did I miss any? Okay. We did the update on the spring cleanup. Unless anybody had any other questions on that? Okay. Approve the notice of intent to the LGUs and workplace.
So part of the wellhead protection program is the local government units in the area need to be notified that we are entering into a wellhead protection plan. It doesn't really come into play so much for our size and what we're doing, but when you have multifaceted governments, the county and the state are really the only two that need to know what we're doing right now. But we get this notification that we need to push out. I take that back, the township also needs to know, so that they understand that we're entering into this and that there are some certain requirements that may come into play because of that. Because of how deep our well is, we're not at any kind of danger of any restrictive nature of, you know, for example, certain businesses being able to be built within that wellhead protection area and stuff. It's all about the permeability and how surface water, how long it takes to get to our entrance point of our well. And ours is, what was it, Shane, 52 years or something that it would take for surface water to get there?
You're even up to 60.
Yeah, so I mean, we're really sitting good where our wells are. And so But we do have to notify them, so as a council, we need to accept that, or you need to accept, if you would, the notification process and allow us to notify them that we're entering into wellhead protection agreement or protection program.
Is this just the standard?
Yes.
Type?
This is, they typed this and sent this to us. This is who we're required to notify based on them. They do 90% of the legwork in this. It's a Minnesota Department of Health program.
Does every town do it, or?
Yeah, eventually their goal is that every town will have it done. So we're just next on the list.
I'd make a motion then to approve the notice of intent.
I'll second it.
First and second, any discussions or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve notice of intent to LGUs and workplace. We got a couple of minutes. Can we cover the Greenwood Nursery?
Well, I'd make a motion to go into a closed session at the end of the meeting for employee review.
The end of the meeting, okay.
Second that?
First and second, questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to go into closed session after the normal business of city council meeting. Now, the Greenwood Nursery stuff, can we cover that in a couple minutes or not?
Yeah, it won't take very long.
Okay. Let's do that.
You might remember that in the past we talked, actually I think it was in December if I remember when we originally started on this, when we talked about the Greenwood Nursery for all the flower pots in the downtown area, and they also proposed for down 14. Well, because of Excel's new policy and stuff, that kind of nixed the Highway 14 version of it. Then we talked about putting them at a base near every one of them, and since then that also doesn't meet Excel's policy for clearance around the poles. And it was the council's consent at that time, from what I got out of it, that there's gonna be too many obstacles with that. So we're trying to review something different with that. But so going back to just the downtown, the pots in the downtown area, I did actually have a meeting, and I went and met with the chamber and talked about, this was originally a chamber activity that had started with the chamber. I kind of talked to them about them taking it back over and, helping recruit businesses to, instead of the city paying for multiple flower pots. And if you recall, we actually had a member from the public come in with a concern that we were absorbing too much of this and that it was becoming a much bigger bill than it was originally intended to be. So I was able to talk to them and get it back down to the containers that we have in front of the city hall and the holiday containers that we also have in front of the city hall, and then the city just taking care of the watering portion of it. History was that originally it was the Public Works was going to take care of it, just ended up becoming a daunting task and the equipment required to do it, and Greenwood Nursery is actually able to do it at less of a cost than the equipment and stuff that it would take for us to do it and the manpower that it would take to do it. So what I'm requesting is to approve paying this for watering the pots downtown and 2 containers in front of the city offices and the 2 containers in November. And this was budgeted for accordingly.
This says 55 units, because it says baskets downtown and Highway 14.
I
We don't
think
have 55 baskets.
there's 55 units throughout town. There's some in different areas and
There's
such.
that many?
Yeah, that's what we had last year.
I think I'm a little thick on this today. So we're paying $95 for 55 units for watering only.
Correct. This is for the maintenance and care of them ongoing through the summer. They water them a minimum of twice a week, I believe it is, but weather also dictates how often they
Right,
water them.
I understand that. So what's the cost that the chamber's gonna pick up for the actual basket?
So the baskets are, ironically, the price is the same. It's $95 for for the planting and care and the cost for the pot and stuff for the basket. And they've got multiple businesses that are sponsoring each one of them.
Okay, so then, and I'm not being negative toward Greenwood or at all. So Greenwood's gonna get basically $11,000 for the flowers downtown?
Yeah, I would say.
That's
It's a lot higher than last year.
a whole lot higher than last year. I
It
think,
was 6,000 last year, 6,250 sticks in my mind. You know, and I can re-review where this 55 number came from. I
well,
can confirm that.
I'm
100%.
thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong and double check on it, but I'm thinking that $95 is the flower and the watering per, that's the way I understood it. And then that would make the numbers come out about right, because this is the first time I've seen with the big urns that are on there, so that's the extra $400, which is whatever, but it's, and that's why I'm concerned with what the chamber's kicking in. And how we're tracking what they've kicked in, or does the chamber pay the city? I got 12 business, or I got 12 polls sponsored, here's $1,200? Or how does this all work?
So realistically, the city, we shouldn't have been involved in this in any way, shape, or
Right.
form. It was originally a chamber activity, and then they asked, can Public Works do the watering? And then when it became, I think, Shane, didn't they all die one year or something, or
Close.
come pretty close to it? And so then it was discussed to have Greenwood do it. The price to water per pot all summer long is $95. That's per pot. So if the number isn't 55, that's their target number to get. Now, I don't know where they're at as far as what they've reached. As far as sponsorship of a pot, we're paying for the two out front of City Hall. As a, you know, and I think we had 8 of them last year that we ended up sponsoring.
On the polls, yeah,
And it was
what we've done
because-
in the past is wherever there was a light pole, whatever business was next to that pole would pay for the pot. The city wound up paying for a lot more pots because they cover so much square footage downtown. So they didn't have that many to sell, and or the chamber didn't.
So we need more clarification on.
Yeah,
So I would suggest we table this until we can get more.
what
clarification.
part do you want? So again, the target is 55 pots that they want to put
I
up.
don't think we should have 55 pots.
Okay.
how many light
have
poles?
40 poles.
Yeah, so that,
55 seems a little.
So I think it would be, so the poles, the 2 pots in front of City Hall, there's a few pots in front of businesses in front.
But they take
So
care of
they
it
should take care of that. We should not be paying for, and I'll use Mark as an example because I know he won't get mad at me. He puts out some beautiful urns and he pays for them, but we shouldn't be paying his watering bill for those urns.
In the past, we have though. I wasn't here when that got approved.
I wasn't aware of that ever happening, otherwise I would have said something before too.
When we paid $62.50 last year, and I actually have it in my office if you want me to grab it quick. It was those 2 pots, I can tell you for sure, were part of it, and there were a few other
And
applications.
I could see that as a billing, a way to bill to make things simpler for Greenwood, just like we do with our garbage. But we need to recoup some of that from the people that are getting the advantage of it. And I don't know, like I said, that was never brought to the attention of the council the way it was getting billed. That was something that was decided on and did, and here's the bill.
Yeah,
And thank you for bringing this up. We need to put the train back on the tracks, and the chamber who started this needs to get involved and reimburse the city, and whoever's getting their flowers that they bought watered by the city taxpayers should be paying their own bill or paying back the city for having that service done. You know, I'm not opposed to whoever's handling the billing. This is the simplest way for both us and for Greenwood, I could see, but we need to collect it back.
okay.
And
I think,
otherwise we're not gonna get a true cost.
But
You know,
I think the watering was, and for whatever reason that it started, and I don't know how far back it goes, but the city took care of the watering.
One season,
And, what's that?
one season.
One season, so it was never previous to that?
No.
Okay, so what year did they come close to death?
That one
That one
season.
year.
Oh, yeah, but, so
Yeah.
then, did the city has sponsored the watering, paid for the watering since that year?
On those,
It was like 2009 or 10, I think.
yeah, on the hanging pots is what we were supposed to. And I was under the understanding that if they're gonna do it, and this was all after the fact, it was just the ones that we paid for, not all of them.
Right.
So that's where it all gets muddied.
So
We need
last
to-
year,
we
we
need
paid
to-
6250.
We need to come back to this, we're 5 minutes past. So, we'll put that on hold for a second, and at this time, we'll open up the public hearing for the variance permit for Ron Steffens. Is there anyone want to speak?
This is for an egress window and setbacks also.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, that's correct.
So, as I understand it, the building is too close to the property line. Once you put the egress window in, that encroaches on the setback, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. If nobody has comment, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll hear motions or questions associated discussion.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance request for that egress window.
I'll second.
First and second, any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so variance permit request is approved for Ron Steffens. All right, so now back to the flower pots discussion.
I'd like to take 2 seconds and grab
Sure.
last year's bill out of my
Yeah.
office. So last year, the council paid, or I'm sorry, the city paid for the labor to fertilize and care of the hanging baskets and the 24-inch containers around the city for beautification. We did 61 of them last year. So, and I didn't physically count them or see anything, and truthfully, I think it was paid for before I even came on.
Yep.
But it was, and the city paid $6,055, and what that included was, we had 2 of the flower containers outside of the city during the Christmas season. There were 2 others put out there, and we had 6 hanging ones that we sponsored. My direction to the chamber was that we would take care of the 2 that we had out front, because that was city property and it was, part of what we were doing. But the 6 hanging ones, in my opinion, and from what we discussed, needed to be covered by local businesses, and they needed to go out and pound the pavement to try and get local businesses to sponsor them. As far as the watering of those, we did pay $85 a piece for 61 of them last year to be watered. The amount that it went up was $10 per plant for maintenance for the year, and the number actually went down from 61 to 55 on this invoice.
So what did the plants cost?
They're $95 a piece for the plants. They seem to match the same as the cost of the plant and the maintenance of them.
So the plant was 95 and to water them was 95?
Correct.
And
That's-
is that spelled out on that invoice that way, or is it?
It's spelled out the labor to deliver, water, fertilize, and general care of planters and hanging
Last
baskets
year's.
downtown.
Because last year.
Downtown and Highway 14.
That's how it is on this one. Last year's did not say Highway 14. I think he edited this invoice, and I think he forgot to take off Highway 14, because the 55 number does not cover Highway 14.
But I don't see a price for the flowers
From last year or this year?
last year.
Last year was $85 a piece, 61 of them at 85.
That was to fertilize, care, and everything.
Yep. And then the cost for the baskets was 85, and we had 6 of them. of the hanging ones.
No, I mean for all of them for downtown
We didn't do
area.
all of them last year, we only did
We
6
did
of them.
6.
So they didn't have, what the problem was is they didn't have enough sponsors locally for that, and
That's why it was kind of piecemeal. Nah, piecemeal isn't the right word either. Not all the poles were covered.
Okay.
That's the way,
And I think we're at risk of that this year because we're actually at a lower number by, dropping down 6 of them. And that was based on the fact that they were still trying to recruit a few more.
Well, we had, what was it, 61 last year?
That's correct, yes,
All right,
61.
so, and that included Highway 14.
no, there was
There
nothing
is
on
none
that.
on Highway 14.
There was none on
That's
last
a
year.
mistake on this invoice because the original bid included adding 24 containers along Highway 14. And that was back when this was gonna be, that $11,000 bid.
Okay, I thought there were baskets on 14 before.
Nope.
No? Okay.
So the invoice for this year that they're, requesting us to do is actually 5605, and last year we paid 6,055. So it actually lowered because even though the prices went up, we still dropped 6 containers that the city said, we're not gonna cover the ones that, for lack of better words, the chamber was unable to fill.
Right.
But right now, if we would pay this 56,
That would water all of the pots downtown.
what's the chamber paying for?
That's on them, whether they're getting them from the business owners or whatever. I didn't get a report from.
I know, but to go from this bid last year to this bid last year when we paid the 6,000, that was for flowers and watering.
Not for all of them, only for 6 pots.
Who paid this? This 5,000 for the 61?
That is
club?
just for the maintenance and care of the flowers. It's
No,
not
that's
for the
gotta
pot
be for the
itself.
That's for the plant too. It's gotta be.
Nope, it is not.
They're not getting $11,000 for plants and watering. That's not what we paid last
So
year.
isolate it down to one pot though. They're getting 85, well, this year they want $95 for each individual pot, and that's for providing the pot, fertilizer, growth, delivery, hanging, and all
The
that.
flowers.
Then the maintenance of that individual pot is $95 to water it throughout the year.
So you're looking at $190 per pot for
Correct.
plant, pot,
doesn't seem
and
right.
maintenance. So almost $200.
That doesn't seem.
Would you like me to ask Jeff from Greenwood to come in on the next council meeting?
Or just spell it all out. The flowers are
An
this, the
itemized
watering is this.
invoice.
Itemize it.
It is itemized.
Well-
It's just, he put it in simple terms. It's $95 for the cost of the pot, and it's $95 a piece to care for them for 1 year.
Okay, but then my question would be, if we don't have the rest of it, how do we know? So the chamber's gonna handle sales or, sponsorship. So what if they only get 24 pots that's sponsored?
Truthfully,
Then,
that's their problem.
I know,
But we're paying for
to
55.
water 55?
Oh, if we only get, if they don't put all of them up, right now, there's 55 of them that they have committed to being put up. Whether the
Okay.
chamber's committed to putting them up, or whether it was all individual businesses, the number is 55.
okay,
They'd like it to be 61, because we have enough spots for 61 of them to be up, but unless they can recruit those numbers.
So if we have 40 poles? Shane, is that what you said? Was we have,
40 poles downtown, yep.
how do we have 60-some planters when we only have 40 poles?
And truthfully, I didn't dig into where the location is of all of them, but last year it was 61, this year it's 55, so I could get actual locations from them. I didn't dig into that because the number went down, so I thought somebody did their due diligence before, and I just went with it, so.
I understand why you would do that, but I
Yes.
have a hard time believing 55, and then when Shane says we have 40 poles.
We've had
where
more
we have
discussion
this
on flowers
15.
tonight than we did
yes.
for all the years prior
We
to
have.
that, and I appreciate it because I honestly, I didn't know where they're picking these numbers from or going, and I'll be honest with you, I still am unsure of the numbers. I'm happy the way it's trending, but it's not making sense to me. For some reason, I have it stuck in the back of my head for that first year that they did this and they were selling pots for everybody. It was, I want to, and I'm not going to say it all, and I'm 100% sure, but it was like $200 a pole. And then the city had to water it. And then some of the people who purchased the flowers and some other folks decided that the volunteering watering system wasn't working very well. And next thing you know, Greenwood's doing it, and they do a wonderful job. But they never came back to the council and told them, no, your flower pot's $80 and to water it all year long is $80. And I understand, I'm not complaining, but what I'm hearing tonight is now we're paying with city funds to water private businesses' flowers. Is that what I'm hearing tonight?
I think you're splitting hairs there. You could call it private business because they sponsored it, but they are hanging by city light poles.
No, I'm not, the light pole ones, I have no argument at all.
Are you talking about
I'm
like
talking about the
standing
urns.
ones in front of Mark Seegers?
Yeah,
And,
that's more personal. The ones that are hanging on taxpayer property, I got no problem, whatever it takes to keep them pretty, so everybody's happy. But to have a 40 or 24-inch urn sitting in front of somebody's business that somebody on a fixed income's tax dollars is paying to water it, now I'm starting to have a problem. And that's all I'm concerned with.
So maybe
Well, and
that's
I-
where they're getting the 55, because there might be 40 hanging and 15
Yeah,
Well, and that's what I wonder.
things on the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
comes
Oh, I would-
back to that.
I would say that there is, yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
That makes sense.
Again, I don't
There's
know all
more.
the locations of them. I wouldn't even fathom a guess, but there are some odd locations that we're not thinking of.
Right.
I can promise you that.
Well, and I have to agree that, and it's been said before, we're the stewards of everybody else's money, so we need to be clear about what we're spending on this.
But I will also tell you that there are some taxpayers that would be upset if we didn't have flowers hanging downtown.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
Sure.
there's always two sides to the
Yeah,
coin.
I'm not saying eliminate the program. I'm saying I appreciate the information we've got. I'd like to have it clear so
Okay.
everybody understands what's going on.
Okay.
It's,
I'll get it itemized down
Yep.
further and represent it at the next meeting to you and as an itemized column. And you can decide on line item or something if you'd like. Would that be okay?
it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying we want to eliminate it, it's just, we want to be clear what we're spending the taxpayers' money on is all. So we'll table that till, next meeting, is that good?
Yep, it'll be June 10th. I'll get an
Okay.
itemization by then.
All right, next would be the resolution 2019-35, approved payment to Rainier Contracting, Inc. for work completed on stabilization ponds, number 10.
So that is a invoice or a pay app number 10 for $288,958.23, and it was approved by our city engineer for the work that's been completed.
So is that complete now?
No,
Oh.
no, this is just that, they get paid as they go.
I thought we were nearing completion on those, but,
We are, but there is some testing and stuff that has to be done, and
okay.
They've actually flowed some from the current ponds to the new ones, and I was talking to Al about it, so it's just a
Progress.
Yep. I would make a motion to approve resolution 2019-35 for Rainier Contracting.
First and second, questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries for approval of resolution 2019-35, approval of payment to Rainier Contracting, Inc. for work completed on stabilization ponds. Okay. Municipal accounts payable without Breakthrough Beverage.
I'll make a motion to approve the municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage and the planning commission minutes from 4/1 of 2019.
First and second, questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve without breakthrough beverage, municipal accounts payable, and planning minutes from 4/1/19. Without breakthrough beverage.
I don't want to pay him.
Me either, 'cause they'll get.
Wait, can we,
I don't care if you don't
can we
pay
get that
him.
Jack Daniels barrel in there?
I don't care if you don't pay him either, they just don't get any liquor, so.
I'll make the motion to approve the accounts payable for breakthrough beverage.
Second.
First and second, questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Conditions on there.
Any opposed? Motion carries for municipal accounts payable with breakthrough beverage. Okay, so, looks like, let's see. At this time, we will move to the closed meeting.
The museum opens on Saturday. Just so everybody knows. So you can go out.
Thank you.
They overcome their flooding situation up there.
Mostly.
Need a motion to adjourn to the closed meeting?
Yes.
Yes,
Motion
are
to
we
adjourn the
adjourning?
Regular meeting.
Well,
Then
or
We're,
close it.
we're gonna close the regular meeting
There we go, close the regular meeting.
and open the closed meeting.
It's confusing.
Yeah, we try.
See if this